Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach, and I do a live career coaching session with a social worker who volunteered. So this is going to be good. They're going to come on and share what the issue is that they're currently experiencing in their career, or what their goals or needs are currently. I'm going to coach them in real time. So this is a good opportunity. The reason why I do these sessions is to, one, give you a bird's eye view of, hey, how you doing, big? To give you a bird's eye view of what it's like to be coached, because I know for a lot of people that you never probably have received career coaching or know anyone who's received career coaching. So this is an opportunity for you to witness it in real time. And so she's going to be joining us in just a moment. But as you're joining in the chat, tell me where you're logging in from, what city, what state, what country, where are you? If you don't want to share that, then tell me what kind of social work do you do? And we will go from there. Oh, I already have someone, Bia. Thank you, though, for requesting. I already have someone. She should be on shortly. I sent out an email to my email list. I always send it there first to the people who get my weekly newsletter whenever I'm looking for volunteers to do these live sessions with me. And so I sent it out and people responded right away, actually within the hour. And so I only asked for 2 volunteers and I got them. I'm doing coaching today and tomorrow. Oh, you're in the UK? Okay. I love it. You're in the UK. We're trying to figure out her tech on the other end. She should be coming on in just a moment. Oh,
Oh,
hey, there
good.
you go.
Oh, goodness, the stress that I felt with that. Oh,
It's okay.
unreal.
It's okay. Don't be stressed. It's just a conversation between us. It's just people
Right.
watching. People watch the replay. It ain't a big deal. Um, Pronounce your first name. Was I pronouncing it right in the voice note, or was it wrong?
Janella.
Janella, okay. So I'm so excited that you responded to my request for a volunteer. I was just telling them that I do these occasionally so people can get a bird's eye view of what it's like to be coached. And I always send it out to my email list first, right? So Bidette says not a social worker yet, but I'm looking forward to becoming one in the future. Okay, so this is a great opportunity for you to listen to Janella. She's going to be telling us about her social work career, because I know y'all hear a lot about mine. So this is a good opportunity. So Janella,
Yes.
tell me what's going on in your career currently to make you accept my invitation to come on and be coached.
I right now I am a program manager. I have been for the last 4 years. I work in a very urban area, teaching interpersonal skills as well as parenting classes. And I also help coordinate our local teen court and community service program for juveniles, working with Department of Juvenile Justice.
Okay, did you work anywhere else before becoming a program manager?
I did. I was a case manager back at home in Florida.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
I'm from Florida too.
for children and families for 2 years.
Oh, you are with DCF.
No, with a local nonprofit for well, well, it's children and families, but most trying to remember. Good
I
God.
know what you're talking. You were an investigator though.
No, I didn't work for CPS. I worked
Okay.
for a health facilities, so a community center.
A community center. And who were you serving? Youth,
Youth
children, or adults? Okay.
children.
How many years did you do that?
I did that for 2 years.
And when you say serving, what did that look like exactly?
So I had to become a certified high fidelity case manager, a wraparound case manager.
Hmm.
So work together in a disciplinary team with the psychiatrist at our inpatient facility and the outpatient therapist as their case managers.
Are you a
Sure.
clinical social worker?
I am not a clinical social worker. I am actually currently in the process of finishing my MSW. I am set to graduate complete my program either in November or December. I am waiting for an approval,
Okay.
our dean, so that I can overlap my capstone with my current practicum.
Okay, congratulations. Happy early congratulations. Okay, so you're a current program manager. You've been doing that for 4 years. When
Mhm.
you relocated from Florida to where you are now, you went straight into that program manager role?
I did not. So I took a couple months off of work just so that I can transition into our new area. And then I started looking for work, and then COVID happened. So
Okay,
it was probably about 6 months off of work before I started working again.
okay. So what is the biggest issue that you're experiencing currently in your career?
Out of my total time in this field, which is amounts to about 10 years, I've been doing direct service the entire time. Um, and I am currently at a point, I had a discussion today at my practicum with one of the advocates, and she said to me as I was talking to her about, how I was feeling, she said, it sounds like you're trying to fill a cup full of holes.
Mm,
And that was the best, probably one of the best analogies I've heard in a while to kind of help me understand what I was feeling and what I'm going through. I just feel like I'm putting out fires and just not getting to where I need to go. We were having a conversation about systemic change and what that looks like. And she was explaining to me what she would do if she had the ability to change society. And she explained that she would get more money into the system and she would open a new program for women and children, for for specifically for young women who have been victims of human trafficking.
mhm,
And I looked at her and I said, but how are you going to change the system?
mhm,
And that moment kind of like turned in her head and she was just like, okay, that's another band-aid, but like that's a part of the system. And I said, but if you create this program, you're filling in another gap. And realistically, what's happening is you're going to create a puzzle with another piece that doesn't fit. It's
mhm,
not changing that system. And we had a long conversation about that, and it really just kept me going in the mindset of this is just I'm not happy in this space anymore. I don't feel like I'm doing anything anymore, and I know that I am. Even today after my session with my kids, I was just like, I love you guys, but I don't love this anymore because this doesn't feel like it's doing anything anymore. I'm just doing the same thing over and over and over. Same kids, same issue. Well, different kids, same issues. And I can give you the tools, but I'm still getting the same referrals from the same places. So nothing's changing on the
mhm.
outside.
Okay,
Kind of
so
where
that's very helpful. So I want to ask you two different questions. The first is, so you did program management. You're doing that 4 years, 2 years at with a DCF community-based care organization. Where did you work prior to that? You said you've been in the field for 10 years.
I worked as a what do they call them? Behavioral tech and substance use.
Okay.
And I was a group facilitator for AA and SA classes. Um, and I did that from it's 2005 now. So I graduated 2017. So 2015, 2016, I was doing that work because I only needed an associate's.
For a few years.
hmm
Okay. Where did you work anywhere else before that?
No, I worked at Walmart
Okay.
before that.
Okay.
Um, and I worked at a daycare, but that was short lived because they told me you either have to choose college or here. And I think I was like making $7 or something like that an hour. And I was kind of looking at her like, that's not really a choice. But
Mhm.
thank you for being upfront with me because I'm not going to sacrifice school to work at a daycare. So I kind of just went back home. Um, and just stuck it out through school. And then my dad introduced me to substance use and substance abuse. I had family that had gone through it, but I had never even considered it as a job.
Mhm.
And he told me it would be a great opportunity for me to do it overnight. And so I worked the 6P to 6A shift, which put me right in that group facilitation time where they have to do their, daily meetings. Um, and then it also helped me transition into their morning routines where I work with the clients a lot. They don't sleep. They don't sleep overnight until I transition to the morning time. But then I transition them into their morning routines with like medication management and things like that. until they had to go to their morning meetings and go off to their what do they call them, inpatient treatment.
Okay. So I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna put a pin in the whole conversation about systemic change because it's something there that I want you to tell me about. But first, when you decided on your MSW degree, like I'm gonna go get an MSW degree, what did you have envisioned for your career? How did you see yourself using this degree upon graduation to get a job? What type of job?
I told myself that I was going to create a nonprofit to work with youth and families to teach interpersonal skills because it was something that I was interested in. I had learned it um, through group facilitation, actually. And I thought this is a great opportunity for me to create a new program in my own community. There isn't a lot of things like that. You know, for me, when I was growing up, I would love to do that. I did mentoring when I was a teenager, when I was in high
Okay.
school. Um, Say again, I didn't have a lot of options, and I was hoping that I was going to create a program. Okay, I can do that even if I'm in a new community. I can here. Um, and this community is not very diverse, but it is urban, and so my goal was to create a space for people that look like me.
Where do you live? If
In
you
Carolina,
North Carolina. Okay. All right. So your vision for your career was you're going to become a nonprofit leader. You're going to be teaching youth and families interpersonal skills. How do you define interpersonal skills?
so I teach them daily social skills, communication skills, conflict resolution, substance prevention, job readiness, anger management courses. Well,
Okay. So when a youth, we're just going to go with youth.
mm-hmm,
When a youth is taught interpersonal skills, in your based on your philosophy, I'll talk about it, it's like your philosophy to this work. Youth
mm-hmm.
need interpersonal skills to do what is the long-term benefit of a youth having interpersonal skills?
And then just being a functional member of society outside of where they come from. Most of my kids come from alternative school, and so they lack those skills to stay in regular school so that they can be social and I hate to use the word regular, but be regular kids in school. Um, and so they come with me for a 16-week program. They're released back to the alternative school and they're able to decide whether or not they're going to be able to go back into school, depending on how they show that they've learned the skills while they're in school.
Okay. So along the lines of that conversation you said you had today with someone about systemic change. Okay. This is me assessing, do you have your macro lens? If not, this is what I teach people. Okay. So you're saying that youth need interpersonal skills in order to know how to, I'm just going to say, integrate in society, socialize, be in school settings, be in life. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So out of your 4 years of working with youth, and you've done like, I'm sure you touch youth in those other jobs that you've done. What is the root cause issue of the youth that you served as to why they don't have interpersonal skills in the first place?
Mm.
To just say it regular. Don't try to make it social work. Just say it
Oh no,
regular.
it's not that. What it is my first instinct is to say it comes from the homes that they come into lacking the actual skills themselves. Their parents themselves don't have the skills, and so they can't give their kids what they don't have. And then it also comes from, well, what culture did these parents come from? Like my mind just, well, where did the parents come from? What did they learn from their parents, from their culture to teach them and teach their children these things? So how do you blame that child for not having the skills that when I have this conversation with their mom, she's the exact same way? Well, and it just trickles down.
Right.
Um, how do I affect change? I've even had the conversation with my professor a couple weeks ago in practicum where she was talking about cognitive behavior therapy and how it's successful for this and it's successful for that. And I said to her, well, what about those kids that you have this intensive therapy with and you put them back in this same environment and they go back to what they were doing? that doesn't change. Well, yeah, they have to want to. I said it's not just about them not wanting to change. They're going back into the same environment that brought them here.
Okay.
And
So why do they go back? Why are they having to go back to the behavior that they know?
survival skills, lack of options, lack of understanding to why they are switching in their own behaviors. They also don't have, again, access to something like the interpersonal skills. If I've never introduced that idea in their head that they have an option or they have choices in their behaviors, how would they know?
Okay. So this conversation is for those watching live. I'm glad y'all here. This is a good opportunity to
Oh,
see what it's like to get coaching, and for those watching the replay. So this is what I coach. What you're experiencing is a lack of clarity. Okay. So I'm taking you through the clarity process. And this is for everybody. We don't jump to talking about a resume until we're clear about what is the issue that you are wanting to do macro level work on, because it then ultimately helps you find macro jobs, write your resume to the macro job, be able to master interviews, and continually progressively advance in your career.
okay.
So we're going to spend our time on a lack of options, because this is for everyone. Macro work focuses on, and this is for everybody because I don't know where people's baseline of knowledge is about macro level work. So I teach my coaching clients what it is and what it looks like in the real world, not theoretically like in higher ed. So macro level work focuses on populations, large geographical regions, whereas micro work, which I always call case management, I don't care what kind of case social worker you are, everybody is a case manager if you're working one-on-one. Micro work is one-on-one, so it's very self-focused.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the person lacking this? What does the person need built up? As a macro social worker, though, you look at the systems that are impacting this person that is resulting in this issue that you're interested in, right? So when we're talking about systems, again, this for everybody, Janelle, I'm not, this for everybody.
No,
A
I'm.
system could be transportation, it can be housing. My area of specialty for issue is workforce development. So if you're talking about the parents ain't gonna have time to teach the son interpersonal skills if they can't pay their bills and they work in 3 jobs to make ends meet,
Mm-hmm.
because the cost of living is high. They live in a city where it ain't no transportation. So they having to catch rides and figure out every day how they gonna get to school, how they gonna get to work. So when the child gets there, it's probably very sporadic because the mama's struggling to get them to school. They're not gonna, and it's gonna be hit or miss with the whole socialization of the student. So then when they get back home, it's survival mode. How we
Mm-hmm.
gonna pay this light bill? Where I'm gonna get food? They cutting SNAP benefits, all
Mm-hmm.
of the things, right? So then the child has to go back to survival because they're trying to survive amongst all of these systems that
Mm-hmm.
they are being pressured by. So I say all of that to say this. When you say lack of options, I need some specificity, and you base this based on your work experience. What
Mm-hmm.
have you seen that these people are being impacted by systems wise that is causing the children to then show up this way?
Um, so to be honest, many of the things that you just mentioned. So to be specific, I don't know if you know anything about North Carolina, but my work area is in Castle County. It is one of the most rural areas in North Carolina, and that is 100% here. I don't have a car, so we offer transportation in our services. I pick the kids up. I don't have food. I offer snacks and I feed them lunch when they come to class. Um, I don't want to learn, right? Because I'm a parent. I know what I'm doing, right? I don't need somebody else to come in and teach me anything. I'm afraid of the system that if you
Well, it
find
may not be that they don't want to learn. Maybe if you from a rural area, it's probably a lot of mistrust.
right, right. I don't
The
trust. I
people
don't.
come in and say they're gonna help you, and they don't help you. I
That,
know a little bit about the Carolinas.
mm-hmm.
Okay, well, go
So
ahead.
that's what we're experiencing.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's also culturally, if you're not within the center of Castle County, you're on the outside, and as an African American woman, that's not always acceptable. put it that way. And so being able to give services to somebody who's not accepting of that, and I have to be culturally aware that that's also a barrier to providing those services to those clients. Um,
So you're
so
naming transportation.
mhm.
It's not a diverse area. It's rural. It's lacking a lot of access to opportunities. I said mistrust. You named it as a lack of education. It could be both of those things, right? If I don't trust them to come in and help me, I'm
Right.
not gonna run to their community education event. I'm just not gonna do it, right? So where you live is very similar to where I lived, where I landed all my macro jobs from there. It was a very rural town. It's one of the most it was the most economically segregated city in the nation in 2017 when I was working on the front lines as a case manager. So I understand the dynamics of what you're naming here. So out of all of that, right, when we talk about going back to that conversation you had earlier today with someone around systemic change, what out of all of the lack of options that you named, is there a specific issue out of that you are interested in more than others? In a hopes of, if this is addressed, if there is some progress in this area, it will create better opportunities for the youth that I am so passionate about, so they can show up as whole students in the education system and improve their lifetime outcomes.
uh, if I had to choose, I would probably say community engagement and really breaking down that barrier of trust between myself and the community that we serve. Because much of what I do, is me advocating for the students through advocating through the services that reach those students. So going to the school board and speaking, at the school
Okay,
board.
okay, look at you, got your readings on. Okay, school board, what else?
Um, Also going to the principal meetings, meeting with the different principals in the schools and offering our services, and bringing them pamphlets, bringing them treats, whatever I need to make them understand that I'm here, I'm on your side, I'm here to help these students, so that I can bring the services to them. And me doing that and me staying within that system has allowed for me to create an MOU with the Castle County Schools now, where I'm able to go into the schools, and give interpersonal skills to those elementary students, but without me having that community engagement and working with the people who are servicing the students that I'm trying to go after,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have that connection. And
Okay,
so trying to find ways around this system so that they understand that even though, you're a rural county, it doesn't mean that you don't count.
okay.
How do I show face and bring you onto the map for, let me not go on a tangent, but
No,
that's
go ahead.
um to help you understand that we're not just here to, charge your insurance, and the services we provide is free. One thing that they never believe when I tell them that everything that we're doing is for free. I give you the skills, I feed your kids, I bring them from school, I bring them home. No one is coming into the system and saying, "Hey, I'm giving you something," without wanting something in return.
Hmm.
How do I explain to these families that there is a need that we see here, and this service is brought to you for you to take benefit, for you to have the benefit of it, to help you in your community? And maybe you can become more industrial later on. Maybe you can have access to more things. Maybe we can bring more stuff into this system because you started small here and you were able to grow from here.
Okay, so I love that. What you named, all of that, I love it. However, that is micro focus work. When you are shifting and developing your macro lens, you zoom out from the focus being the onus of fixing this problem is on the person experiencing the problem. Macro level work, you place the onus on the leaders of the systems. So I'm gonna just offer you a reframe, and this is all a part of clarity. This may not even be the population issue you passionate about, but it sounds like it if you want to do nonprofit. But we're gonna run with it for this example. A reframe of how I teach my coaching clients how to identify, out of all of that experience and the thing that you're super passionate about, how do we shift that to macro level work? How
Mm-hmm.
you do that is by, instead of going to the school board and saying, let me develop this MOU with you to come in and educate the parents, No, you educate the school board leaders. You educate the state Department of Education leaders on ways to better engage with these target populations and communities. Because ultimately, out of all of these years of experience, you are an expert on engaging them. You just named why they are hesitant to engage with the K through 12 education system. It's mistrust, it's racism. I'm gonna call it what it is. It's racism, transportation, cultural misalignment. They're not including them. It's not inclusive. It's not diverse. It's no community and belonging. So as a macro social worker, you would be talking to the leaders of that system to educate them on the needs of this population to build better parent engagement. That's what they call it in K through 12, parent engagement. Social workers call it something else, but they call it parent engagement. And schools struggle with engaging parents, with engaging families. So I have coaching clients that have landed jobs where they're doing work like that on a macro level, and they're providing education to these leaders to help them understand the best practices to engage with families, the best practices to increase student attendance through wraparound supportive services, right? But again, you're not focusing on the parents. That's micro level work. Macro level work, you're talking to the leaders, you're talking to the policy actors, you're talking to political leaders, school board leaders. Okay. So I say all that because the experience that you're getting now makes you more than qualified to get a macro job like that. So we went through that whole process. And at the end of it, you named community engagement. I said, what is the thing that you think is needed? Community engagement. You see how you get clear and clear. You didn't use that word in the beginning, but you named it. Like, this is what I like to do. You didn't come on here and say what most social workers say, policy. There's way more avenues to create, to be a conduit of change for macro level work. And yours is community engagement, which is one of the things that I teach my coaching clients. Do work that you enjoy, not work that the people tell y'all you can only do as a social worker. So if you are really good at engaging with the community, you need to be the expert on the state level, on the national level, that's teaching these leaders how to engage these groups of people, which is important to them because they need students to be in their schools to get funding. They need students in their schools to meet these statewide benchmarks and things like that. And so there are jobs on that. There are jobs like that regionally, statewide, and nationally.
Okay.
What questions do you have about that? I see you taking notes. What's your
I am.
thoughts?
I didn't consider, well, no, that's true. I didn't consider one that my position and the things that I'm learning now as I'm working with my families and working with my community would qualify me in a space as an expert to go and speak to these leaders and they're going to listen to what I'm saying.
Yes,
Um Also, and I also didn't consider that moving away from the space helps me indirectly come back into that space and spread the help that they need without again putting out those fires that I've been working on for the last few years.
exactly.
Um and I
Because
think
when you
that
talk to the leaders, you're doing prevention focused work. You're preventing the families from even having to enter those systems to be putting out fires. Because if you're educating them on, hey, I don't know, you're the expert, I'm just gonna make up something. Hey, it really would be beneficial if you have late hours, especially being that we provide services. Well, you all are, have more rural school districts in the state of North Carolina than you do urban districts. It will be helpful for the parents if you have late night hours or weekend hours where parents can come and talk to teachers, or maybe it would be beneficial if, and again, this is from your experience, this is from what the literature says, this is also what I teach my coaching clients on how to become a subject matter expert, because it's not just based solely on your work experience, it's based on what's happening in the national landscape. What are best practices? What are best approaches? So I'm just making up some stuff because I only know about my area. So it may look like We need to have alternative methods for parents to chime in and talk to people at the school. Maybe I know in my work in DC, in Washington, DC, we partnered with a cell phone company, a cell phone corporation, and we were talking with them and as a liaison for the mayors in the cities around the state, around the country that we were working with, so they can get access to cellular data services for the students that they were going to engage in the workforce development programmings that they were going to be creating as a result of the funding that we were giving them, right? We were troubleshooting all of what are the blind spots that will prevent students from taking advantage of this opportunity. If they live in a rural place, how they gonna get to the center? They're gonna need internet access. How if they don't have money for internet access, we need to build a partnership with the cell phone corporation to get them data, to get them laptops, right? So you also have to amass knowledge around what are other states doing, and that's what makes you an expert. But being that you have, going back to what you said earlier, you didn't know you were qualified. I'm using this word, qualified to do this work. That's what makes you all the unicorn. That's what I tell my coaching clients all the time. What makes you the unicorn is that you have on the ground experience. You're not just talking theoretically from a book or from a research paper or a one pager that you read. You're also combining it with, and this is what I teach my people too. When you're learning about that stuff in the research, you should be practicing it in your case management job. That's how you build solid experience to really get competitive. So if you read in one state, like I love the state of California's workforce development work. I've been following it for over 12 years since I was preparing for my pivot to macro level work. They do it right when it comes to getting youth and young adults jobs, right? So let's say I read today that they are I'm just making this up. They're partnering with a makeup company to get youth and young adults into makeup manufacturing, right? So, and then let's say I interview for a macro job around workforce development, and they're asking me about like, well, we are coming up with this dilemma. The biggest issue that we have with engaging youth into what we're trying to do nationally is that they're not interested in the careers that we're talking about, which is a true thing. Like youth ain't trying to get a regular job, right? So I would be like, well, actually, in California, which is a state that really does it right, I just learned about in Sacramento where they are partnering with a Fortune 500 makeup company, and they are providing apprenticeships for youth and young adults. And at the end of that apprenticeship, the youth and young adults are able to then secure employment with those companies because that aligns with the work that they're wanting to do. And as a result of that, they're seeing a higher level of participant engagement because the youth are interested in those jobs, right? So I'm pulling that from what I read, but then how I compare that is also, I know in my work in DC, we worked with, I think it was, what was it, St. Paul. St. Paul, they partnered with like a computer gaming corporation because what they learned through their needs assessment was that youth and young adults in that city, they didn't just want to do regular tech. They wanted to build games. They wanted to do, and this is real time because I used to talk, I was leading the meetings. So they developed this partnership with the gaming corporation that was in their city. So I could take what the research says and what I've seen firsthand in my work, and that's what makes me the unicorn.
Okay.
Right? So you have to do is it's way more than just writing a resume, and that's for everybody. Like what I teach my people is how to become a subject matter expert. So I'm gonna wrap all of this up for you in a pretty bow. So what I would suggest for you, now that you've developed this macro lens, I would encourage you in the next 30 days to really immerse yourself in understanding what are the issues that rural school districts are facing around community engagement and how are they addressing it. And from that research, you should identify at least one, max two states or cities who you feel are really doing the work right. From there, out of the things that you're learning they're doing as far as services, maybe stakeholder groups they're engaging, organizations they're partnering with, you should borrow something and implement it into your program. You the program manager, you could add it in there. The people don't, they give you free reign to run the programs. That's the benefit of being a case manager. So
Mm-hmm.
I be telling people, like, you sitting in the gold mine and y'all ain't even taking advantage of it because they just want to overwork you. So they be like, just figure it out. You can do whatever you want. You should be strategically building the experience you need to get the job you want. So you find something that one of those two states are doing that you really, really like, and you implement it in your program. And you start collecting the data. What are the outcomes from this? What was your process for implementing this? What did people say as a result of you making this change? And then I'm going to stop there. But you take that data and that's what you use to get the job you want, the macro job, doing that on a national level or a regional level, or even on a state level. I include state and macro level work.
Okay.
So any questions, thoughts? I know I broke your brain. I meant to tell you that in the email. So that's why I had to stop because I will go full blown with it. But what's your thoughts?
um it's given me a lot to think about. I really appreciate the note to not just use this time to, implement something new, but find some kind of evidence-based curriculum or some evidence-based information or research out there that's working, and then try it in my own area so I can actually see the evidence play out in real life, and then being able to not only monitor it myself but collect that data and know that it's useful data that I can use later on.
Yes.
Some other things you said that's really just racking up in my brain, my brain. Um, the idea that obviously other states or even countries for that matter um, can bring value into the work that I'm doing. Just because it's not happening here and it's not the immediate culture here doesn't mean that it can't be effective. I don't know that I've never considered it before as much as I've never considered implementing it or using that information to my benefit. Because I mean, coming from Florida, I know there's a lot of things that I did at home that I can do here, but I just don't do it because in my mind, culturally, it wouldn't be acceptable because the culture is different. But if you don't try it, you 100% fail. So I got to try it.
Yeah. And in the research, they'll tell you. They will give you the identifiers of those regions and you compare and contrast that against your region. Rural, not culturally diverse, such and such and such, poverty line, such and such number, right? And that's how you pick, oh, this is very similar to my city. And you use that. And so to wrap this up for everyone, this is how I teach people to get macro jobs without going back to school and get a certificate, get a training, get another degree. It's not, you could get all the degrees and still can't get a macro job because it's not about the degree. It's about your application. It's about your experience. And there's no better place to do that than in a case management job. Because, like I said earlier, you have free reign to build a program how you want to run it. As long as you are getting the people in the door so they can get their money, they're fine. However, the service delivery is up to you. So,
Right.
this is how you use it strategically for your future benefit. You don't just sit there and do the thing they've been doing for 30 years and you know it ain't working. Make it benefit you and the youth in the future and infuse things that you can test out. Then, as a result of you're doing that, you're building your expertise. Because macro jobs, you don't just get from passion, you get from experience. So, I
Yes.
love it, Janella.
Thank
Job well
you.
done.
Thank you so much. I really.
Job well done. Keep your macro lens on, though. Because the social workers around you, they're going to focus on just the person. That's what, when they come to you as a micro social worker, that's just the presenting symptom.
Mm-hmm.
What is really going on beyond them? You have to look at the system. So that's also going to be important for you to develop your macro lens as well and be strong in that because peer pressure real in these social work streets and they love to say it's the people fault and no, it's the systems they being impacted by. And so I love it. And I just want to tell you this, you're doing good work.
Thank
I love what you're doing. There's what I told one of my coaching clients the other week is that don't wait until you get the dream macro job. Make the change now. What I was telling her is like, um, she's a believer. I'm a believer. I don't know if you want, but I'm gonna give you this story. Have you ever heard the analogy of the man in the boat? And he's like, Jesus, you got to heaven. He's like, Jesus, I was waiting for you. I kept praying and waiting, and Jesus, like, I sent you three
you.
boats, and you
Yeah.
sent them away.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing with your work, right?
Yeah.
You're like, if I just get this dream macro job and the solutions and the opportunity is right here in front of you, it's because you see it, it's your responsibility to address it. And so
Mm-hmm.
like I told my coaching client, like I started helping people get jobs before I ever got a job doing that type of work around workforce. They're like, oh, you don't know how to get a job because it was hard in my city. I
Mm-hmm.
can teach you what I figured out on my own. I was doing that 15 plus years ago, even before becoming a social worker. So I say all that to say is you see this issue for a reason. It's up to you to do something. Don't sit there and be an upholder of the system. Start researching solutions. That's what I used to do in my cubicle with 120 plus caseload. These people keep coming in here generation after generation.
Oh,
My Lord, what is going on? I started researching and started practicing things with my caseload. So y'all see, I get really excited when I talk
yeah.
about macro level
Yeah.
stuff.
Start researching the solutions.
Start researching the solutions and implementing them, and you will see the effects of it. Because there are other states and cities out there that do the work right. It's just not being done in your city. Okay, so I'm gonna end it there. If you are interested in coming in the next cohort of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator, registration is currently open. It will close on Friday. I'm registering people for cohort 21. If you want to learn more about working with me for career coaching, click the link in the bio. Visit macroandpaid.com. Schedule a free chat with me. Until then, I'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Janella.
So
Happy
much,
macro career planning.
everybody.
Bye.